Jimmy Garoppolo, the backup of the San Francisco 49ers? Find out next on Our Nate's Nonsense. Hello and welcome to Niner Nate's Nonsense. My voice is pretty shot because I've been dealing with some sicknesses, but we are here for you on NFL Cut Day. The season is now only 2 weeks away, less than 2 weeks away, actually. So we got a lot to talk about. We got a 53-man roster for this season we need to talk about. But first, let me introduce myself. Niner Nate here with you every single Tuesday and Thursday. No Thursday this week, but no, and probably. Yeah, we'll be back next Tuesday, next Thursday, and we'll be doing shows all throughout the season. And with me this week is Jamal Armstrong. How are you doing, man?
I'm doing pretty well. I've been thinking a lot about you, bro. I hope you're doing okay and feeling a little bit better. I know what you're dealing with, and I just dealt with it not too long ago as well, too. So I'm just praying you bounce back really, really well. I was blessed and able to bounce back. For me personally, it took about a week before I was able to get closer to normal, but I'm hoping you're able to bounce back. I think you're a trooper for pushing through and doing this regardless. So props to you. I'm also looking forward to this season. I know obviously today was cut day, right? So we've cut down to 53 and there's plenty of things we can talk about between myself and you and Kevin as well too, when he's able to make it on the pod a little bit later as well too. So
yeah,
excited news about that. Ready for the season. Obviously can't get here soon enough. Obviously, the elephant in the room that we'll eventually get to as well. Too, so,
Kevin will be joining us later to talk about specific situations. He's busy with some stuff right now, but he'll be popping in here real soon. But you got to do a show. It's 53-man roster day. The hype is up. So no matter how sick you feel, how tired you are, you got to do it. So let's go through it real quick. Let's pull it up here. Yeah. The quarterbacks. We'll start there. Trey Lance, quarterback 1. Jimmy Garoppolo, quarterback 2. Brock Purdy, quarterback 3. Next, we have running backs. Elijah Mitchell, Jeff Wilson Jr., Tyrion Davis-Price, Trey Sermon, Jordan Mason, and then fullback Kyle Juszczyk.
Right.
Wide receivers, Deebo Samuel, Brandon Ayuk, Juwan Jennings, Ray McLeod III, and Danny Gray. I think there's no surprises there. Tight ends, George Kittle, Ross Dwelly, Charlie Warner. They've also said that Tyler Kroft is coming back after Jimmy Ward is put on IR. So, good to know. Offensive line, Trent Williams, Aaron Banks, Jake Brendel, Spencer Burford, Mike McGlinchey, Jalen Moore, Colton McKivitz, Nick Zakelji, I think it is.
Zakel.
And Daniel Brunskill. Okay. Defensive line, Nick Bosa, Javon Kinlaw, Charles Omenihu, Kerry Hyder Jr., Hassan Ridgeway, Drake Jackson, Eric Armstead, Samson Ebukam, and Kevin Givens. Linebackers, Fred Warner, Azeez Al-Shaair, Dre Greenlaw, Oren Burks, Curtis Robinson, who will be put on IR, I think, and Demetrius Flanagan-Fowles. When he's put on IR, that means they're going to be bringing back Jordan Willis, just so everyone knows. And then cornerbacks, Charvarius Ward, Emmanuel Mosley, Samuel Womack III, Diamador Lenore, Ambry Thomas. Safeties will be Talanoa Hufanga, Tavarius Moore, George Odom, and Jimmy Ward, and hopefully Jaquiski Tartt. And specialists, of course, Robbie Gould, Mitch Wisnowski, and Tabor Pepper. So when you look at that list, obviously I just read it off and I'm sure you've seen it. What are some of the big standouts to you, not talking about the quarterback position?
Sure, absolutely. I'll start with Jordan Mason, man. I'm super glad that he made the roster. Not only the fact that he made the roster, I think he played himself onto the team. Obviously, it's the initial 53, right? So he made the team initially. He didn't have to clear waivers or anything. We didn't have to pray for him to come back. I thought he played astounding. I thought he played excellent during the preseason. He was, in my opinion, the breakout star of the preseason. we didn't know much about this dude. And not only 49ers fans, I feel like the league didn't know much about this guy. Had he been cut, he wouldn't have cleared waivers. There's teams who clearly saw what he did on the field. I think he averaged just over 3 yards after contact. So he's known as like a power back, but he's a little bit quicker than I think people want to give him credit for as well, too. Like, he can move a little bit. His vision, in my opinion, seems to be somewhat underrated. I say somewhat because, well, didn't know too much about him before, but he's initially come onto this team and played well from the jump. So some players, and especially for me personally, when it comes to running backs, I'd like to see them take well to a system because the shelf life of a running back is short regardless, right? So he's probably not going to stay with the Niners anyway after contract 1 is over. But like, I don't expect him to play 8 years, 8, 9, 10 years. But if he comes when a running back comes into the league, if they can kind of flash, show something right away, I like to see that. And with this guy, he seems to take to this system very well. I think it's fit to his abilities really well. So one, really glad that he made the roster. And then sticking with the theme of running backs, just the fact that they have 6 running backs that they're carrying, if we consider Kyle Juszczyk to be a running back, yes, he's a fullback, but he can also line up third down situations to be a receiving threat out of the backfield as well too. So I count him as a 6-1 as well. So that's 6
Do you
running
think
backs.
that the reason they have all these running backs is because of injuries, or do you think there's another reason for that, having that many running backs? It seems like the general consensus would be that you carry all these running backs because you've dealt with so many injuries in the past.
Right.
But like, that's a lot. That's a lot of running backs.
100%.
5 different running backs.
Right. And I think that you touched on it. I think it's probably, I'd say at least twofold. I do think part of it is because of injuries. One, the fact that we are going to run the ball a lot. I believe that's going to be a huge part of our offense. We'll probably be, I'm going to go out on a limb and say we'll be top 3 in rushing yards. I think we'll be probably top 3 in team rushing yards this season. I believe they'll run the ball often. I believe we will run to throw. Not that Trey Lance can't throw or anything like that. I just believe that that's probably the strength of this team, and you can utilize Trey's best strengths by working off of the run, especially in year 1, especially with an offensive line that's pretty shoddy outside of a couple players as well too. So you want to put as less stress as you can on that unit. You also want to build that unit, the cohesiveness as well too. So when it comes to that, I do think that we'll run the ball often. I think it makes sense to have these 6 guys, but also to your point, you had mentioned injuries. Elijah Mitchell, we know he does get dinged up. Yes, it's only year 1. It was only year 1 last year, but when you put that much, that many reps, that many carries on a player, especially at running back, like, injuries like that do happen. And I'd rather see running back by committee, because I don't think that there's one outside of Elijah Mitchell right now. I don't think that there's one clear cut, just straight bell cow. I think Elijah Mitchell is close to that in my personal opinion, but I think he's best served splitting carries with somebody. Now, that doesn't mean it has to be 50-50. I could see it being 70-30, something like that, 60-40. I think it will be more closer to 70, maybe even 75-25 to start the season. But I think by season's end, you could see a guy, whether it be Jordan Mason, whether it be TDP, Ty Davis-Price, whether it be Jeff Wilson. Jeff Wilson's always been a steady hand, right? So a guy like him, I don't think he's just going to very easily give up his running back positioning. And we have guys on this roster that are fighting for playing time because they're good enough to start not only here, but other places as well too. So with that in mind, I think it's very smart to have the 6 guys. We have to see what we'll get out of Trey Sermon. I don't know, but I like the running back position that we have. I like the position we're in right now.
I like having all this talent. I think that that's the best part, Jamal. You think about having all this talent at running back when you primarily run the ball. You're a primary running football team. I think that's a huge boon for the 49ers. And so the fact is, we haven't got to see a lot of Trey Sermon. And what I saw Trey Sermon in the preseason I actually liked, because the fact is we know how bad those tackles are. We know he might see way better play as soon as he gets Trent Williams back. Mm-hmm. So, I mean, I'm excited to see that. I'm excited to see more Tyrion Davis-Price. And, of course, I want to see more Jordan Mason. The guy looks awesome. Right. And that's in a preseason game, right? So, it's great to have a running back room like this that's so talented. But not only that, the wide receiver room is super talented. I mean, you've got a guy who's arguably a top 5 wide receiver in the league in Deebo Samuel.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I don't think a lot of people would say that Deebo Samuel is not one of the most talented players in the NFL. Ayuk should be
100%.
taking a huge leap forward as a deep down the field threat with Trey Lance. Because Trey Lance does have the ability to throw the ball downfield. We've seen many times he does.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that while they're going to primarily run the ball, having that threat of a downfield, throw is going to change the way people play the 49ers. And then I like Ray Armstrong. I did it again. Ray McLeod. I like Ray McLeod. I really like Danny Gray. And I think Juwan Jennings is one of the better third wide receivers in the league.
Agreed.
I think it's just there's a lot of great skill positions that are filled on this team. And I think it's really exciting to know that, Trey has all these weapons, all these different ways to score. And I think that's where I think Kyle is setting him up for a lot of success. Where I think he's not setting him up for success is the fact that, yes, Mike McGlinchey made the team, right? He's healthy. But I don't know if McGlinchey's going to play week 1. There's some videos coming around where he looked like he was in pain at practice this week.
Right. Come up a little
So,
gippy.
I mean, if we have to rely on Colton McKivitz or Jalen Moore or Nick Zakeji, I don't like that. I would like to see them do what they did with Lakin, where they found a guy who's going to get cut or a guy who wasn't an important piece on another team or a guy who was a bust and brought him in and had him play his position as he was supposed to play and was able for him to become a good NFL player because it took time. And I just feel like I'm really concerned with the offensive line and protecting Trey Lance more than anything. I think that's the one thing from this cut day specifically because I think everything else on offense is perfect.
Mm-hmm. No, and I'm with you on that. And I don't want to give too much away because I know we're gonna talk about the quarterbacks, so I don't want to.
No, I see him in the dream in the comments. We're going to talk about the quarterbacks. I want to give Kevin at least a little bit of time to put his kid to sleep.
Yeah,
and then I want to get on here because he's been wanting to have this conversation with me all day.
100%. But my point about the offensive line, I agree with you. I do think that they're not done making moves there. The question I have is when will those moves be made? Because I thought all offseason that they would try to shore up this offensive line. They seem I can't even say they seem. They've proven to us that they're comfortable enough with the guys that they have. And I'll be honest, I was kind of shocked to see Nick Zakelj, how we say it, make the team over Jason Poe. I'm just going to be honest. I was shocked to see that. But I think the fact that he has a little bit more, he'll be on the team longer. They drafted him. He'll be on the team longer. There's the potential that Nick Zakelj could be the center of the future. I know he played offensive tackle, but he's a heady player. He's very smart. And he's also,
I think that's why he's here. Is because they believe that he has a future with the team. And because you don't just hand a spot to another offensive line. Usually you have like one swing tackle and some backup guys, right?
Right.
But there's something about this kid or something that he showed, maybe something we didn't see in the preseason games that made them believe that this guy has a future at offensive line on this team. I don't think he plays at all this year, personally. I think he's kind of like Aaron Banks, where he's there, but he doesn't play.
I agree with you 100%. That's kind of what I was getting to. I think this is a chance for him to, especially if he is going to be the center of the future. Not saying he will, but if that's the case, considering he did make the roster, he's just now going to be starting to learn about center, learn some of the techniques, go into practice. So there is a legitimate chance he redshirts this year, doesn't play much, or if at all. Certain injuries can happen to potentially put him in position to start. If they're comfortable with that, we could see that. Should that still not be the case, yet they still think he can potentially build up to that, if a player goes down, then they're looking on the scrap heaps again for a center. Maybe they go to their practice squad. I'd be surprised if they did that. But I do think there's a chance that he turns out to be the center of the future. Just the possibility of just throwing that out there. Glad Spencer Burford made the team. That's no shock. We expected that.
He's a starter. Well. I mean, and he proved that. He
100%.
Like, we haven't talked since the Texans game, Jamal, but I've been thinking a lot about how, a lot of these guys get a lot of flack, but Kyle Shanahan doesn't really expect a ton out of guards. Like, guards don't have to be the most amazing player in the world. And I think that Burford and Banks showed just enough to be starters on this team. They're going to let a couple pressures in every once in a while. But if Brendel continued playing like he's playing, Trent Williams is Trent Williams, the best tackle in the NFL.
Right.
and they can shore up that other side of the offensive line, Trey Lance will be perfectly fine. Trey Lance is more talented in the way where if he gets in trouble, he's going to run outside the pocket and make a play. You saw it even in the Texans game. Yeah, sometimes the ball was not necessarily accurate, but that's because he's throwing on the run.
Mhm.
If he can get used to running outside the pocket, or he's going to get a little bit more protection, they're going to be perfectly fine.
Yeah, and I'm with you on that. And I think I'm going to be honest, Nate. I've thought about this for a while, and I think you have as well too. A bunch of us have said we all expect and we're hoping for investment into the offensive line, and it didn't happen the way that many of us had expected or were hoping to see. What's up, Chris? It didn't happen the way we expected it to be, and so I've been saying for a few months now, and I've said it on your podcast. At this point, yes, it's a hope and a prayer. Like, we're hoping this offensive line is good, but I've also said, out of fairness, that I have to give them the benefit of the doubt because they have been able to start other guards and tackles that wouldn't be starters on other teams, and also make them serviceable for extended amounts of time when guys have gone down. Like, we've seen that. So in that same breath, I can also say, while it being a hope and a prayer that we expect, or that we hope this offensive line can be league average, at the same time, we are an injury away from starting guys that maybe we didn't want to start, or we're not planning to start for a lot of the season, if not the whole season. If McGlinchey isn't able to go, what happens? Do they move Burford over? Does Zakelj have to go back and play tackle? Like, is that ideal? Is that what they wanted? I can guarantee you right now that's not what they want. That's not what they're hoping for, but that's how paper thin our depth is right now, be based off of the offensive line that we have. Now, does that mean that that'll be the case 6 weeks from now? No, maybe they gel and they're much better than I'm giving them credit for right now. Can that happen? It can. Do I expect it? I don't. But I think that our season legitimately hinges on this offensive line. If they're able to keep Trey Lance healthy, and we're able to stay in games to where we don't have to drop back and throw the ball 40 times to get back into a game, which I don't expect because this team is very well-rounded. But should that be the case, and teams know that we're dropping back, oh, Trey Lance got to drop back 35 times today. They're down 17-0. First quarter's already over. Oh, they're dropping back. That does not bode well for this team whatsoever. I don't expect it, but should that be the case, I do think we're in a world of hurt there, for the simple fact that the offensive line seems right now somewhat paper thin. And we'll get to this later. We're going to get to this.
We're going to get to the quarterback. There's two more positions I really want to talk about before we get to the quarterback.
Yep.
So there's two other positions. You really hit the nail on the head there, Jamal. You talked about how if someone gets hurt, the guys behind him are not necessarily studs, or they're guys that are like serviceable, right?
Right.
And when you're a Super Bowl roster, you generally don't want that. There's two positions I feel like the 49ers are actually in a little trouble.
Mm-hmm.
And the first one is safety.
Right.
Because we already lost Jimmy Ward. Talanoa Hufanga, I mean, that kid has literally just skyrocketed in this team's eyes, obviously, because now he's the starter.
Mm-hmm.
And they love him. But I would love to see them go out and get Jaquiski Tartt to put with him instead of putting George Odom out there. But if that's their plan, and it's George Odom and Talanoa Hufanga first day, that's a little scary. And then if Talanoa Hufanga gets hurt, Tarvarius Moore being his backup is a little scary. But I mean, one thing about safeties is they're kind of a dime a dozen. You can find one off the street. They're not a position a ton of people are looking for all the time.
Mm-hmm.
The other position I really want to talk to you about is cornerback, because Charvarius Ward, he's our guy, he's the future now. They just gave him all that money. Emmanuel Mosley, one of the greatest undrafted free agents the 49ers ever had at this point.
Mm-hmm.
Guy's a starter. Samuel Womack, a great draft pick. He's going to play nickel. I mean, that's what you want, right? When you draft a guy with the intention of making him the nickel, you want him to be the starting nickel at the start of the season. And that's what he is, right?
Right.
So that's great. Lenoir, I just never seen much out of Lenoir. And I mean, I hope he's great, right? If God forbid one of these guys gets hurt and Lenoir is the guy they turn to, I hope he goes out there and kills it. Same with Ambry Thomas. Like, he's so wishy-washy. Kind of reminds me of the guy they had at corner before from oh my God, the guy they let go to the Seahawks and then he went to the Steelers. What is his name?
Oh, yeah. Ahkello Witherspoon.
Ahkello Witherspoon. He really reminds me of Ahkello Witherspoon because it's just like Ambry is sometimes on and he's nails, right? Yeah. And then sometimes he's just awful. and doesn't know how to get his head around. And so there's just things that scare me. Like if guys get hurt, we're turning to guys who I don't feel as confident about. And I know when you have an elite pass rush, it generally helps your secondary not be as important, but it's a little scary for me.
Sure. And I get that. You know what? The one thing I'll say that hopefully will bring some solace or some comfort to a lot of 49ers fans or fans in general. And I'll start with the corners, then I'll move on to safeties a little bit. If you can look at your team, which I think the 49ers can do this, if you can look at your team and say, is Charvarius Ward a clear-cut starter? Yeah, for sure. Is Emmanuel Mosley another clear-cut starter? Yeah, for sure. Is there a potential that Jason Verrett can come back, and if he's able to return to similar form as he did in I won't even say 2019 form, just a similar form, is that a potential starter? Yeah. Well, if that's the case, that gives you 3 guys right away, which we know he's on the physically unable to play list right now, so Verrett won't be in the mix right away. We understand that, and that's why he's not listed on the 53-man roster right now. But if he's able to come back and be that guy that I think he can be, that gives you 3 potential starting corners. That already is a good starting point. I'll just say that, and that allows you to, as you had just mentioned, you draft a guy like Samuel Womack, who will come in and I believe will be the starting nickel corner. You believe it as well, too. That's a draft hit right now anyway. That seems to be a hit. That seems to be an absolute steal, considering the fact that other teams were interested as well, too. We got that guy. The ball seems to find Samuel Womack. He just makes plays. That's potentially a steal.
Great.
That gives you 4 guys, with one of them being a nickel as well, who's also a starter, essentially, in the league. Nickel corner essentially is a starter now. That gives you 4 guys that I'm right now very comfortable with. Then at that point, you start looking at, as you had just mentioned, Diamador Lenore, Ambry Thomas. We've seen some flashes here and there, but that allows you the chance to let these guys grow. I remember that they were rookies last year. I remember Diamador Lenore played early on. He got cooked a couple plays here and there, but I thought he played solid. He's a willing tackler. I like those things. Those are qualities you want to see in a corner. Especially if he's going to end up being, at this point, what looks like probably second or a depth corner to Samuel Womack as the starter, especially at nickel. And then you have Ambry Thomas as well. We saw a lot from him last year. We saw a lot of up and a lot of down. I'm not mad about that because he was a rookie. I kind of expect that. Outside of quarterback, I think you can legitimately argue cornerback is probably the hardest position to play. You could argue it because you're on an island. Yeah, we play a lot of zone, and we did a lot of cover 2 with Ambry last year because he was a starter that was thrust, or he became a starter late in the season that was thrust into that role. When it comes to that, though, my main point when it comes to the corners is I like where we're at, and I like that Diamador Lenore and Ambry Thomas aren't starters right now. Yes, injuries do happen, but if we have injuries, guess what? Other teams have injuries as well, too. If we can say relatively healthy, I do like the chances that Diamador Lenore and Ambry Thomas can come in on their particular plays and grow throughout the season. I've seen some growth from Ambry Thomas. Yes, it's up and down. I can't say, I expect this out of Ambry every week. Yes, I expect this out of Demo every week. Can't say that. Haven't seen enough to say that. But that's why I like the position that they're in. They're not starters. They are depth pieces, and they're going to have to fight. They're going to have to fight to get some playing time. I made a post, I don't know, maybe a month and a half ago saying just that. I like the position they're in because they have to fight. They're going to have to get better to see the playing field unless injuries happen and they're thrust into roles. But I like that. I like that there's competition because I believe competition will breed success. I'll say that about the corners. When it comes to the safeties, I just wanted to mention this because you had mentioned Jaquiski Tartt, and we're going to see a lot. I think we're going to find out real quickly what the Niners really feel or believe about Jaquiski Tartt because, like you just said, he is released. Are they going to go for him again? Or will they say, you know what?
Well, waivers are tomorrow. Keep in mind.
Right.
Waivers are tomorrow. So
right. So we're gonna hear. Will he clear waivers? Will they want to be interested in Jaquiski Tartt in a reunion? Will he be interested in a reunion? Seems like it. He's been tweeting a little bit. Or will we hear, you know what, we're going to bring back Dante Johnson. We got Jimmy Ward on IR. I was actually one that said I thought Dante Johnson would make the initial roster because of his secondary versatility. That clearly wasn't the case. But there's also the potential that because he's been cut in years past, and they continue to bring it back, right? He's been with the Niners, I think, since 2015, 2014. He's been cut, brought back, cut, brought back like 34 times. It's happened a lot. So at this point in time, I do think
he always comes back.
Probably returns. I think he'll be back. But like I said, we're gonna find out. And I had kind of theorized about this. I don't know this to be a fact, but I theorized that there had been some issues. There definitely was some tension there with Jaquiski Tartt at the end of the season. There was not a plan for them to reunite. But this is a business, and there's the chance that they can say, you know what? He got cut. We have a need. He can play strong safety. He can play free safety. He is a hybrid safety. He can play both. He can come in and fill in for Jimmy Ward. Will they say, you know what? I need to go bring that guy back. Is he willing to come back? Can we find a deal? Or will they say, you know what? We've had Dontae Johnson here. We've got a better relationship. Like, I truly feel that we're going to find out a lot about the 49ers and how they view Dontae Johnson and Jaquiski Tartt right here, right now.
Yeah, I mean, we're going to find out, right? Well, I think the time has come, Jamal. We have to have the discussion. And Kevin will not be joining.
Talk about one more thing.
Yeah, sure.
One more thing. I just wanted to touch on the defensive line, and we don't have to talk super long about this, but I know that they have 9 defensive linemen, and I was surprised. I think I'm not the only one. They let Kemoko Turay go. And then they kept, for me, I was surprised to see Kerry Hyder kept over him. That actually surprised me. The only thing that I've said, or that I'll say, and I've said this before, clearly Jimmy Ward's going on IR. Who do they bring back? Will it be Dontae Johnson? Will it be Kemoko Turay? Maybe they'll carry 10 defensive linemen. I don't know.
Well, Jordan Willis is coming back.
Interesting.
Jordan Willis is
right.
Jordan Willis he's coming back, and Tyler Kroft is already coming back.
And Tyler Kroft
Those
as well,
are 2 that are coming back for the IR players.
Right.
So it'll be interesting what happens after waivers tomorrow.
And a lot of I found that interesting because I was surprised Kemoko Turay didn't make the roster. I actually thought he was a better run defender than I originally thought he was coming to the team. I knew he was more of a pass rush specialist, but I thought during preseason he did a really good job filling in his run lanes as well too. So that kind of caught me off surprise that he was cut. Just wanted to mention that as well too. But we're deep there. I'm not worried. I wouldn't say I'm worried about the D line. I'm not. I'm just surprised that was a cut I didn't expect.
Yeah, I mean, it was interesting because they did give him $1 million, I think. So that was a sort of a weird cut. But let's get to the most important topic we're going to talk about tonight. I wanted Kevin to be here, but obviously it's not going to happen tonight.
For sure.
The 49ers and Jimmy Garoppolo have agreed to a 1-year contract worth $6.5 million, which means at the end of the season, he leaves no matter what.
Mm-hmm.
The 49ers get a 3rd-round comp pick, and they now have the best backup in the entire NFL. Maybe the 2nd best. Some people believe Tyler Huntley is better. They might be right. Tyler Huntley is extremely talented. The Ravens are stupid for not trying to capitalize on that.
Yeah.
So now Garoppolo is the backup. They're going to get a 3rd-round comp pick. I mean, Jamal, I think I see Kevin, actually. I think I see Kevin. So I'm going to switch the layout real quick.
Yes, get that man in here.
And I think we're going to spend the last 15 or so minutes arguing about this because obviously I love Kevin. I think everybody loves Kevin.
Right.
Kevin is extremely passionate about this topic. So we're going to bring him in. Ready? Here we go.
Right.
Hey, Kevin, how are you?
What up? What up? Can you guys hear me okay?
Yes, we got
you're
you,
good.
Bro. How you doing?
So
sorry about that.
Came in right before
some dad duty out of the way.
Oh yeah, you're good.
Awesome.
So you came in right before our final topic of the night, which is I know the one you wanted to talk about most.
Sure.
So what I want to do is I want to hear Jamal's thoughts on it. I want to hear your thoughts on it, and then I'll give my thoughts, and then we'll have like an overarching conversation to kind of end the show. But don't try not to go too long if you can, so we can have a good conversation about this. I think you guys kind of know mine, but I'll make sure to phrase it at the end. So go ahead, Jamal. What do you think of the fact that Jimmy Garoppolo is now the highest paid backup in the NFL, probably the most talented backup in the NFL?
Yeah.
And the 49ers are actually going to get something where they weren't going to get anything before.
Yeah, and I'll be quick because I know that I've been talking with you for about 30 minutes now. We got to get to Kev. I'll just make a couple quick points. One, we know there was I won't even say a little. There was zero trade market for Jimmy Garoppolo under his current contract, or not the current, his previous contract before the restructure. Had there have been, he would have been somewhere else. And me and you talked about this just before we came on as well too. Jimmy has some fault in this as well too. He chose to wait 1 month before getting the surgery. And I had laid out the timeline with you just before coming on here. Had he got that surgery right after this season, our season ended, which wasn't even the end of the whole season, right? There was still a Super Bowl. There was still a couple weeks. Had he got that surgery right away, bro would have been healthy at minimum a month ago. Why is that important? Because there's a little less than 2 weeks now for the season to actually start. He would have had at least a month and a half with his new team had he been traded a month ago when he was fully cleared and healthy, able to throw the ball. Yeah. He'd have been able to go wherever it was that he was traded to and actually had some time to learn a system. Had it been the Seahawks, it's not a crazy changeover. So he would have been somewhat okay. So I mentioned that just because I think that he has some say in this as well, too. It's not just the 49ers. He's part of the reason his value tanked to the way it was. So point one, zero trade market under that contract. So the 49ers did what? Did they just cut him like the league was hoping? No, they don't cut him. They restructure him because the 49ers, I'm going to use this word, they're being it's stubborn. They're just being stubborn. The 49ers are choosing to be stubborn with this. They want to get some sort of value for him. We know now it'll probably be a third-round comp pick should he make it through the whole season. I personally don't think he's going to make it through the season of 49er. I still think he will get traded because just the fact that players get injured. Players get hurt. I think there's a good chance a quarterback goes down somewhere. I don't wish that on anybody, but I do think that it probably will happen, which will open the door for a team to trade for this quarterback who's now making $6.5 million guaranteed backup money. He's going to be making backup money. Is it easier to trade for that?
And less money than Mitchell Trubisky, I think.
100%. I think he's making what, 7? I think it was like 7 or 8, maybe even 8 million. Anyways, you're right. It was less. Is it easier to trade for that now than it is him at 25, 27 mil? No question about it. But I think at this point in the season, you have to just wait for certain guys to go down because had he had trade value, he still would have been traded. That didn't happen. They weren't going to trade him or they weren't going to cut him. What was the last point? Then the last point I wanted to make as well, too, was I don't think this has any effect on Trey Lance whatsoever. Yes, they're carrying 3 quarterbacks, but think about this as well, too. We don't want to give Brock Purdy. Nobody's really talking about Brock Purdy like that, right? Some people are a little bit here and there, but why would they still carry him? I don't think he's going to be carried on the active roster or game day rosters. I think it'll be Jimmy and Trey. It'll be just 2. But should Jimmy get traded in the season, and I know people want to mention his no trade clause. Listen, the 49ers have already come out and said they'll work with Jimmy for a trade should that happen. So it's not like he can't lift his no trade clause. Should that happen and he gets traded to anywhere, I won't even mention the team, anywhere, you can raise or you can bring up Brock Purdy at that point. Now, is that ideal? Absolutely not. And that's not even a knock on Brock Purdy, but he is still a rookie quarterback who was Mr. Irrelevant. With a team that has Super Bowl aspirations, you don't want to see that. And that is why he beat out Sudfeld. He did. But that is why, or I think part of the reason the 49ers said, you know what? We have a chance to keep Jimmy Garoppolo, who becomes, like you said, Nate, best backup in the league. And the only even though I think it's crazy, they did that knowing they have a Super Bowl caliber roster. Should Trey Lance go down, nobody wants to talk about that. That's the unthinkable. But should it happen, you know you can slide in a Jimmy Garoppolo and still stay afloat and maybe even do more than stay afloat. He has shown the ability to help us get to a Super Bowl, help us get to an NFC Championship. Do I think he has necessarily the killer instinct to win it? I don't think he does, but I think the roster is talented enough that we can still win one. So you get into a situation where – Go ahead.
No. All right, Kevin. I see you. You're stewing over there. I know you've been looking forward. You've been looking forward to this all day. Honestly, I've been building it up in the spaces all day because I just wanted it to be a big bang. So let's hear it, Kevin. What are your thoughts on this whole situation? I'd like to hear everything, and then I'll give my thoughts.
I mean, is it a smart business decision? Yes, because they're clearing cap space. They're still having somebody who's somewhat adequate as a football player, as a quarterback, somebody that the team is familiar with, to have as a backup as an insurance policy. Is it a good business move? Yes, obviously. Anybody would tell you that you're going to get a top 23 to 25 quarterback as a backup who is a capable starter as a backup. That's a good business move. For me, the reason why I have a problem with it, and you guys might have touched on this, is the locker room aspect. Because if you really think about it, there's still a lot of veterans on this team, veterans that lost for a few years before Jimmy got there, and all they associate with Jimmy Garoppolo is winning, right? No matter how it comes to form, no matter if he plays poorly, no matter if he plays well. And now Trey's just going to have another distraction where every single day, every single practice, every single bad throw that is reported by some of these guys that like to crap on
You can
Trey
swear
Lance,
it's YouTube. You're good.
it's going to come out, and we're all going to have to look at this. It's always going to be a topic of conversation. It's not going to go away until he's off the team. Now, I understand that if Trey performs, it shouldn't affect him. But still, the distraction is there. I mean, it's hard to completely 100% ignore things. He can say that he doesn't pay attention to the media. He doesn't, pay attention to what they say or what they're putting out on Twitter or social media or whatever. But the man is always going to be looking over his shoulder. And I know Trey enjoys his company. He's mentioned that several times. He said today, I'm happy to have Jimmy back. But if he starts to not perform, there are going to be leaders in the locker room that know that, hey, my career may not be, or our Super Bowl window, it may not be as long as we think it is. George Kittle, we have to remember, these guys aren't young. George Kittle is 28, 29 years old. Eric Armstead is approaching 30. Jimmy Ward is 31. So some of these guys that are established veterans and some of our best players are a little bit older. Now, we do have some young talent, Nick Bosa, Fred Warner. But some of these guys, their careers are not going to be lasting that much longer, and they want to get to a Super Bowl. So I understand having an insurance policy is a good thing. It's a good business move. But you can't have a young 22-year-old kid with somebody who's looking over his shoulder day in and day out. It's not setting him up for success. And you know what? I'm going to bring this up. Nate, I know you love Kyle Shanahan. Jamal, I know you love Kyle Shanahan. But we've seen this before. We had in Washington, they had a young kid who won Offensive Rookie of the Year. They ran him into the ground, and he was off the team within 2 or 3 years. And then they rode Kirk Cousins. What did Kirk Cousins ever do for them? He didn't win them a Super Bowl. They were much better off using RG3 and trying to keep him healthy and rallying around him. So I just don't want history to repeat itself. And the thing is, for me, yes, Kyle Shanahan has said Trey is the starter, but they didn't go about the season or the off season putting him in the best place to be successful. Yes, we loaded up the defense. Yes, we brought back some of our weapons. Yes, we extended Deebo Samuel, but we left almost $25 million off the table to sign multiple offensive linemen to help the kid out. To me, they've been constantly doing the right thing by Jimmy, and they haven't been doing the right thing by Trey. So for me, that's why I have a problem with it, is because just morally, you're not doing what's best for the kid. I mean, he's only 22 years old, for Christ's sake. We're all 5, 6, 7 years older. This kid is a quarterback of a professional football, one of the most storied franchises. Why can't he be given all the elements to succeed when the predecessor before him had all of that and didn't get it done?
All right, Kevin. Here, first of all, we're going to talk about the RG3 thing. RG3 didn't start because Jake Gruden became the head coach, and he started Kirk Cousins over RG3. Just so you know, that's what happened.
He was drafted by Mike Shanahan.
And he was drafted by Mike Shanahan. Kyle wanted to start RG3. RG3 was his guy. The problem is if you go back and watch that Seahawks game, that injury that RG3 suffered from was like career ending for the most part. Like everyone knew at the time.
He shouldn't have been playing that game. No. He was already hurt.
Right.
He was already hurt. They shouldn't have played in that Seahawks game, but they had the chance. If they beat Seattle in that game, they probably were one of the best teams in the NFC at that point because RG3 was that good, but his body gave out on him. Now, the other point you made, and I think that the thing that's gotten misconstrued from the way I've talked about this is I totally agree with you. 6 months ago, Jimmy should have been cut. But the problem is Jimmy Garoppolo screwed them. There was no way to cut Jimmy Garoppolo when he waited to get the surgery. He screwed them, right? And so because of that, it changed the way things went. They couldn't cut him until, the earliest they could have cut him, I think, was like a month ago. Because that's when he finally cleared a physical. And so at that point, why do you cut him? Because you've already lost out on the chance for the free agents. You've already lost on the chance to make the team better. And I agree with you. They cut him 6 months ago and got the team even better than it is now. It's already a great football team. You cut him back then, they're a way better football team. But now we're hearing all these reports that it was almost impossible for us to cut him because he screwed us so bad. And our intention was to cut him. We were going to cut him at the deadline because it was like, wait one more month and then we'll cut him. That was their plan. But Jimmy Garoppolo whatever you think about him, I don't really like the guy, but he took a $20 million pay cut so this football team can have extra money going into next year. And I think that, like you said, it's a tremendous business decision. It's one of the best business decisions the 49ers have made in Kyle's tenure. The fact that they told the quarterback who they don't want starting, hey, you're not going to play anywhere else. No, we're not going to trade you anywhere else. You're not going to play for anybody else. But if you take this $20 million pay cut, you can come be Trey's backup. And if heaven forbid our number 3 overall pick quarterback gets hurt, then you get to play. You understand the system, and you know how to win in this system. Now, can you win a Super Bowl? Probably not. But they'll get at least to the NFC Championship game if Trey Lance gets hurt this way. Absolutely. There is no team in the NFC that scares me except for the Rams, and I don't even think the Rams really scare me at this point. So I believe that the 49ers, with this move, assured themselves the NFC Championship game. And I know you want Super Bowls. I get that. But the Browns haven't won their division in the history of their franchise. Like, that's insane. The 49ers are about to probably going to go back to back-to-back NFC Championship games.
Right.
Not only that, they're going to get a third-round comp pick at the end of the season. If, say, Jimmy Garoppolo never plays, Trey Lance plays out the whole season, he wins 13 games, they go to the Super Bowl and lose, whatever. Hopefully not, right? They go to Super Bowl and win, ideally, right? At the end of the season, Jimmy Garoppolo is going to net them a third-round pick. And you know who they got with a third-round pick?
Running backs.
Fred Warner. Fred Warner was the third-round pick. But but at the same point,
sure,
like, draft capital is important for this
finding
team.
a Fred Warner in the third round is, it's
a dime a dozen.
Doesn't happen.
But I'm just saying,
maybe
a third-round pick could be important. And if all you have to do to get one more player, one more talented football player on this team is hold on to Jimmy for one more year as the backup, then I'm cool with it. And so at this point, I have to believe, as a 49er fan, as a fan of Trey Lance, as someone who believes in Kyle Shanahan, that Kyle knows Trey is the guy. Trey can handle this adversity. Trey can handle anything you throw at him. He doesn't give a shit that Jimmy Garoppolo's in the office. He doesn't care that handsome Jimmy's texting on his phone.
I believe that he doesn't give a shit.
And of course. And that's how I feel. And so this idea that they're going to bench Trey Lance because of the fact that he plays poorly, I don't believe that, because last year we saw how poorly Jimmy Garoppolo played. How many times was Jimmy Garoppolo absolute dog shit, Kevin? Absolute garbage, trash. Me and you message all the time. He was terrible. So if Trey Lance is worse than that, then the 49ers are fucked anyway. So the thing is there's going to be a very, very long leash on Trey Lance. And if he gets hurt, Jimmy will come in. And ideally, if he's hurt, it's a week or two, and then Trey Lance comes back in like they did last year.
So here's the thing, Nate.
There's no way he's that bad.
I do want to push back just a little bit, because I think if we had sat at 12 and somehow Lance fell to us, or maybe Fields was there, and if we had a different quarterback, if we picked Mac Jones, this move wouldn't feel as bad. But we still don't even have a first-round pick even in the upcoming draft. We gave up a ton of capital to get this guy. So here's the thing, right? We talk about a lot. Trey Lance is tied to Kyle Shanahan and John Lynch's tenure, right? This is pretty much like the last chance for them to prove that they can win us a Super Bowl. If Trey Lance is a bust, do you guys believe they got to go? Because I believe they got to go. Because this is their 6th season, right? If Trey Lance doesn't play well this year, fine. If he doesn't play well next year, they'll have 7 seasons to essentially get us over the hump. Jim Harbaugh got us to 3 straight NFC Championship games and was fired after an 8-8 season. He was only there for 4 years. So now we're coming up on almost double the tenure. Technically not as much winning. And now they invested a lot in a quarterback just to bring back somebody that didn't get them there before. And now all of a sudden, look, I don't think Trey's going to be a bust. I'm just saying, if the worst case scenario happens, not only did you lose out on 2 first-round picks and a first-round pick swap and a third-round pick, you're also going to probably have to fire your head coach and fire your GM. So that's why this decision to keep him and to not give him the best chance to succeed. I understand that the 49ers may be better off, but wouldn't the 49ers be better off by giving this kid, who they invested basically This decision could set them back almost 5, 6, 7 years. Because then if you want to get another quarterback, you have to invest more first-round picks. If you love somebody in the draft, you're going to have to do the same thing over again. Look what happened to the Commanders. They're still not relevant. They gave up, I believe, 3 first-round picks for RG3. They still haven't done anything. So that's my thing is –
I think that's partly the Commander's organization, Kevin. That's just how bad that organization is.
I understand that. But regardless.
But Kevin, I got a question, though.
I
had a question on that.
All the picks. Okay, the Rams kind of got lucky because they were so good. They got to a Super Bowl with Goff. But they've had this aggressive mindset. So what are we going to do going forward? So that's why I had a problem with it, is because they invested all these draft picks. Lynch and Shanahan are tied to Lance's success.
But they're not giving up on Lance here. Lance is still the thing is, if we were having a conversation where like Trey Lance is in a quarterback battle with Jimmy Garoppolo to be the starting quarterback, then I'd have a problem.
Nate, what if he's not the guy? We have to start over again.
You have to give a quarterback 2 years. That's the NFL. Look at Daniel Jones. He's gotten like 3 years and he stinks. Josh Allen took 3 years and he became the second best quarterback in the entire league.
I know.
If Jimmy is on this team, it doesn't affect Trey at all and Trey's play. Trey is going to start. Like there's nothing that said that Trey Lance is not starting this year.
No, that's where I don't get. I'm not this year, Nate. I'm talking about after 2023, after 2024. If he busts, we're gonna have to get a coach. We're finally gonna have.
I don't think that's fair.
What do you mean not?
Jamal, go ahead.
I don't think that's fair because when you say someone's a bust, there's many reasons someone's a bust. So you have to add context to it. It depends how he might turn out to be a bust. Like, is he a bust because he played a season this year? O-line wasn't able to protect him. He has a career-ending injury. Like, I didn't even want to say those words, but if that happens, is he a bust? Technically, because he was only able to play not even a full season. But on the other hand, so if that were to be the case, are they fired? Potentially, right? Potentially, because they weren't able to build up an offensive line around him, right? So that's probably going to come on both those guys. Would they be fired? Maybe. But at the same time, let's say it's 3 years from now, and we know much more about Trey Lance. Like at that point, is he a bust? Maybe. Are you trying to say something?
Oh, I don't understand. Why did these guys get so many passes? I mean, they had. This is going to be their 6th year. Let's say 2 or 3 years down the road. That's almost a decade with the organization.
But the thing is,
because winning a Super Bowl is a winning, Kevin. There's a lot of variables. You don't just win.
They may not have the winning record that you want them to have, but they've been in a Super Bowl. They've been in an NFC Championship game.
I know.
There's a lot of teams and a lot of coaches and a lot of players who just want to get there. Everyone wants to win.
I agree with you, Kevin. That's not enough.
There are teams that never get there.
I agree with Kevin on that, and it not being enough. I agree with that. I just think that there's a variable to who wins a Super Bowl every year. Can the 49ers potentially get to an NFC Championship game and Trey Lance is playing like fucking lights out? Can that happen? And then they lose because of a drop interception or whoever they're playing scores a touchdown to like, could that happen? Yeah. Sure. Does that mean that they should be fired because they didn't make it to another Super Bowl? I would say no, just because there's context. But if this thing derails because of decisions that they made, and then this kid gets hurt because of said decisions not to improve the offensive line, those are reasons that's like, oh yeah, that's like,
Jamal too. Like Niner Warrior makes a point here. John Lynch and Kyle Shanahan have 7 players, 7 of the top 100 players on their roster,
and they did build this roster.
And they've been to a Super Bowl, and they've been to an NFC Championship game. And they may not have won, I get that. But this organization, this roster, this team is one of the most sought-after teams in the NFL. If you ask a Browns fan if he would wish and full confidence, where no one else would know, and would you rather be a 49er fan? They would absolutely say yes. If you asked a Jets fan, would you rather be a 49er fan? Absolutely yes. The 49ers are one of the best organizations in the NFL. They have the best players in the NFL, and they have the potential to have one of the best quarterbacks in the NFL. And if he is the best quarterback in the NFL, Jimmy Garoppolo being there is not going to affect him because he's that good. If Patrick Mahomes had someone behind him like Jimmy Garoppolo, it would have never affected Patrick Mahomes because he's that damn good. Josh Allen,
but Nate, they got rid of Alex Smith, so they gave him the entire trust. The entire trust of the organization said, "We trust."
And I get that.
Because let's say so Mahomes.
Would
I
you
remember
rather have had
his
Sudfeld
first game
behind
against
Trey
Pittsburgh.
Lance?
Hold up. His
Would you
first
rather
game
had
against
Sudfeld?
Pittsburgh. Hold up. His first game against Pittsburgh, he threw for like 400 yards and 4 touchdowns or 5 touchdowns. So like obviously he was great right out of the gate. But the year before he lost his first start. So what the organization was like, we're gonna get rid of Alex. We're gonna trade Alex Smith to Washington. This is
He had
your
value.
show, man.
Alex Smith had value, Kevin.
He did. He was coming off
Jimmy
arguably his
Garoppolo
best
had
season.
no value. Jimmy Garoppolo had 0 value. They got him.
I understand. It's not.
Jimmy Garoppolo was literally a bargain bin
that, though.
quarterback, and they paid him like a bargain bin quarterback. He is not going.
I don't think it's about that. I think it's more about giving 100%. I don't want to say they don't have 100% trust, but giving the kid everything he needs to be successful, and they haven't done that. They haven't.
I think that the offensive line, you can make a point because the fact is like there's so many questions around Mike McGlinchey. But we were just talking right before you came on. These playmakers they have on this team, these running backs, these wide receivers, the tight end, George Kittle, the defensive line, the defensive linebackers, the starters at corner. He's inheriting one of the best football teams in the NFL.
I think there's a human element to this that we're missing. Let's say he does struggle, right? And you see Garoppolo smiling and laughing it up with George Kittle. I mean, what is that gonna say to Lance? I mean, he may not pay attention to it, but man, maybe in the locker room it's not gonna affect him. But when he goes home, that might affect his confidence. I mean, there's just things that
we don't need to baby him. He's an NFL quarterback, Kevin. We don't need to baby him. He's an NFL quarterback. But he's a grown man. No, this is his job. Okay. He's being paid millions and millions of dollars to go out there and play football. If he can't do that, that is his prerogative. Just like Jimmy Garoppolo. When he's fucked up, we shit on him.
Responsibility.
If Trey Lance fucks up 2 years from now, we're going to shit on him. Okay, but that is our job as fans.
Responsibility to give him the best chance to succeed.
He has the best chance to succeed.
No, he doesn't.
He has a phenomenal football team around him. He has one of the best football organizations around him right now.
Being successful in an NFL quarterback is having a good line. How many NFL?
They have the best tackle in the NFL, Kevin.
It's one position. There's 4 unknowns. 4.
Brendel looked good in the preseason.
He started 6 games in his career, man.
Banks looks all right. The thing that I'm scared about, and we talked about it before he came in too, is the tackle. The tackle opposite Trent Williams is a problem. They have given him everything he needs to be successful. Now he needs to go out there and play. And in 2 weeks, he's going to have the ability to go play.
I'll say this. This will be my final point. My final point on this, and this is kind of where I lie between the two of them. Kevin, I think all 3 of us agree with this. Business-wise, the 49ers are being smart. But when it comes to Trey Lance and setting him up for the best position, I partly agree with you, Kevin. I do think that there was many moves that we've all been saying this for months. There's many moves they could have done on the offensive line to help shore that up. Didn't have to be perfect, right? But make some moves. We didn't want to have 4 different unknowns, right? And then Trent Williams. Nobody wanted that. And I'm saying 4 because we don't even know if Mike McGlinchey is going to play. We don't know that.
That's what happened.
And that's what happened. So I agree with you. I agree with you on that part. And we've been saying that for months. That part's very clear.
So why can't the organization figure it out?
When it comes to, I have to be able to say this though too. I have to give this team credit knowing that last year with Jimmy Garoppolo, who didn't play amazing for the first half of the season, this team went 3-5, right? So they've seen a quarterback struggle to move the ball on 3rd down. We were one of the worst 3rd down offenses to start the season. And that goes on the quarterback, especially because that's a money down. That's quarterback. So knowing the struggles this team overcame last year, for me, I can't sit here and say Trey Lance can't struggle and it's only going to be on Trey Lance. The only issue is the media is going to talk about that, right? Everyone outside the locker room is going to talk about that. But I can't sit here and say that the 49ers locker room can't rally around this kid. I can't say that because I've seen them do that with Jimmy Garoppolo. And Kevin, to your point that you made as well too. Jimmy Garoppolo, most of these guys only know winning with him. Since he's come here, they've only won, right? So it's going to take Trey Lance to prove that to them. He's have to go out there and prove that he can win. But at the same time, there's been half a season where Jimmy Garoppolo didn't play well. That happened. Only a season ago, we were 3-5. That legitimately happened. And guess what? Who was on the roster? Trey Lance. What did Nate say? What did Kev say? What did I say? oh, Trey Lance should have been starting. Did it change anything?
But the locker
Hell
room,
no. Hell no, it didn't
but
change
the
anything.
locker room probably
It
still
never
wanted to go with
changed.
Jimmy.
And the
locker room
49ers
probably
No,
continue
they
doing
didn't.
what they're
If,
going
if,
to do.
if
It
they
didn't
wanted
matter.
to win, they would want to
Media can
switch
say what
because
they want.
Jimmy's not winning. They went 3-5 to start the season,
But
Kevin.
he
They
won
went
2 years
3-5.
prior with
They
the,
should
with
have
the
switched
same
after
with the same
after the
guys.
fifth loss.
But
They
okay,
were
maybe I'm not
losing. They were a bunch of losers. They were one of the
maybe
worst
I'm
teams
not
in the NFL to
understanding.
start the season last year.
Maybe I'm not understanding because even though they were 3-5, they could have been like, well, 2 years ago we got to a Super Bowl with Jimmy, so we're gonna just ride it out with Jimmy. That's not the case. If they don't start out winning with Trey, I'm telling you, the locker room is gonna say, well, we won with Jimmy. We got to an NFC Championship game.
I don't
last
think
year
so.
with Jimmy.
I don't think so.
that
That's
is
my whole point. I
100%
disagree with
play.
that. I
think
fully
that's
disagree with
Kyle
that
will
because
say,
this team's gone
shut the hell up.
3-5.
This is my football team. We're playing
I think
Trey.
that's discrediting their locker room. I personally believe that's fully discrediting the locker room, to be totally honest.
I don't
This
know,
team,
guys.
the medal this team showed last season proved everything I needed to see. Now, where I'll get concerned is if Jimmy Garoppolo is still on this roster week 14, week 15, and we're sitting there potentially in the playoff race or not very much in the playoff race, then those questions like show up. Man, should he be starting? Should he be playing? Maybe he can help get us back there. Even though his level,
I think Trey
he's never
needs
proven
to,
that.
I think Trey needs to show results immediately. I think if they don't have a winning record,
He absolutely
until
should
the
show
bye week,
results, Kevin. He's playing the Bears and the Seahawks. If they don't show
doesn't
results
matter.
the first
I think
two
if he
games, I
doesn't
think
have a
that's
winning
the
record at
problem.
the bye, if he doesn't have a winning record at the bye, I think there's going to be a serious
Jimmy
conversation.
didn't have a winning record at the bye last year,
think
Kevin.
so.
Okay, but
I don't think so.
But
They didn't waver last
was
year.
the
I don't think they're going to
incumbent
waver this year.
quarterback. Jimmy was
They're
the
not going to
incumbent.
waver. The San Francisco 49ers do not waver to fans. That is
They
what
tell
they've
us.
shown us.
They've been telling us.
Kyle said in interviews.
They said they wouldn't cut him, and they
every
did cut
single
him.
week.
I
Every single
understand,
week.
but Jimmy was the incumbent
Grant would ask him.
quarterback.
Grant would say, "Are you looking at moving to Trey?" And he'd say, "Nope, we're sticking with Jimmy."
But
and
Jimmy
I
didn't
imagine
have
that's how it's
prove
going to go
anything.
next year. And
But
next
Jimmy
year,
didn't have to
this
prove
year it's going to
anything. He
be.
was already the incumbent.
Are you thinking about moving to Jimmy? And Kyle's going to be like, "Nope, it's Trey's team. Trey's the quarterback." That
Okay,
is
I
Kyle
understand.
Shanahan.
Wrong question.
Kyle Shanahan does not bullshit you.
I understand, but
Talks
but
in
Jimmy,
circles sometimes,
but
he
Jimmy,
doesn't
I know we
bullshit
got to
you.
wrap up. I know we got to wrap up soon, but Jimmy was the incumbent. He had already been on this team. He had already gone to war with these guys for multiple seasons now. So of course they're gonna want to ride with him even when they're losing because they know that they can win with him. They don't know they can.
They've
win
all
with him.
embraced Trey in the locker room. Kittle embraced Trey. You've seen it on TV. They talk about it all the time. Trey is their quarterback. Kyle, this is Trey's team. We've moved on to Trey. Trey is the quarterback of the 49ers. Jimmy Garoppolo is just the backup. He is the backup of the San Francisco
He's
49ers.
100%. Did you guys hear what Kyle Shanahan said today? Did you hear what he
I
said
know
today?
What he said today.
He
Maybe I'm
literally
not- maybe I'm
said
just
they
not
would only
expressing-
take Jimmy back if, in a small scenario case, he could be a backup if it benefited both teams. He didn't expect it, but that's what literally came to fruition. So they were able to restructure the contract. Jimmy is the backup, bar none. And last year proved to me that they don't give a crap what we say on the outside. They don't give a crap what the media says. They're going to do what they want to do. Trey Lance has to actually play like total crap for them and get hurt. I think it's going to be he has to play like crap. He can't move the ball and get hurt for them to switch off and go back to Jimmy Garoppolo. Outside of that, there's no way. And I truly believe that.
He's the
disagree.
backup of the San Francisco 49ers. He is the backup.
No,
And he's
I
not going to stay here all
understand.
year. He will get traded. It's week to week right now. And I fully believe that. It's week to week. He'll be traded. He's going to get traded. And it's going to be for interior O-line help.
I
Well-
understand that, guys. I understand, but I'm just saying the Niners can win the Super Bowl this year, and if Trey is the reason why they're not going to make the playoffs, I'm telling you, it'd be a problem. It'd be a major problem going forward, and the locker room is going to say, you know what, maybe we'd rather have Jimmy around because we know we can win with him. We had a season with Trey, and he couldn't win.
I don't think so.
I don't know.
I think that discredits him.
I don't agree with that, but we've run out of time, so we do have to get off the air.
Good discussion.
We'll be back. We will be back next Tuesday. Me and Jamal, Kevin, me and you will continue this discussion live on the channel. I don't know what time yet because my job is new and I get off earlier. But we will be live before the first game of the Rams versus the Bills. We'll talk a little bit about the Rams versus the Bills as well. You can check it out on the channel. Jamal, if they want to check out your stuff, how can they do it?
Yeah, guys, you can find me online. I'm on Twitter, YoungJA49er. That's all right now. You can just find me there. I will be starting a podcast every other week with Amin the Dream that starts next week. So we'll do
14-year-old phenom.
Yes, he's amazing. Love that kid. And I'm excited to do a show with him. We'll be going every other week. That starts next week. I'll get back to you guys about details once we figure out a day and a time. We're talking right now, setting that stuff up, but that'll start next week. And yeah, you can find me there right now.
Kevin, how can they find your stuff?
I'm at SF99er49 on Twitter. And also about a week ago, I just started writing for Niners Empire Stadium Rant. So go ahead and go check out. I never thought I'd be like writing. It's just something that I kind of stumbled into. Credit to one of our friends, Chris Polo. But so you can find out my articles there. I'll be producing 2-3 articles a week. So go ahead and check those out. And hopefully it's good content for you guys.
Trey Sermon superfan, Chris Polo. You can find me at Niner849 on Twitter. Make sure you check out the podcast, the YouTube channel. Tell your friends. You know, I think we're gonna give something away if we can get to 500 before the end of the season.
It's gonna happen.
Let's do it.
So if we can get to 500 subs before the end of the season, I'll give something away. I don't know what yet. We'll figure that out. We'll be back next week. Me and Jamal on Tuesday. Me and Kevin on Thursday. And then the 49ers take the field against the Chicago Bears on Sunday at 10 o'clock a.m. Pacific time.
Let's go.
Cannot wait. It's going to be a lot of fun. We have a 53-man roster. My voice is gone from talking, so I need a break from talking. We'll be back next week. Hopefully my voice will be back. We'll see. As always, go Niners. And the hype train, it never stops, baby.